Inside Out is presented by HTC. This is life. Connect with it. And sponsored in part by Luke Rankin, Rankin & Rankin Law Firm. Experience you can trust. And by Clark Parker with Myrtle Beach CPAs, proudly serving the area for over 40 years.
Here we are in North Myrtle Beach, home of the St. Patrick's Day Parade and home of Flynn's Irish Tavern, perfect for the month of March and St. Patrick's Day. Now, I looked high and low so that I could interview a leprechaun, but I couldn't find one. I found a pot of gold, but the pot was empty. But I did find some great guests for this month, like a lady pirate from Murrells Inlet, and a chef who makes Irish soda bread. And I also found the best turkey caller this side of the Mississippi River. Meet Joe Thomas from Long's. Are you ready to talk turkey? We're in Conway on Highway 90 with my new friend, Joe Thomas. We met out one night when we were all out having dinner. He was with his wife and I was with my family, and bingo, I found a great interview for Inside Out because he has designed the JNT, which stands for Joe Nelson Thomas, Turkey Call Boss Hen. Right up my alley. Joe, how did you get into designing turkey calls?
Well, I've always for years been a turkey hunter, and I found this old piece of wood, and it was probably over 100 years old. I thought it was a piece of fat lighter, the light wood they call it, to start a fire with. So I said, I'll get that piece of wood and take it to the house to start a fire with. When I took the axe and cut it, it had a high smell to it. And I said, that's not light wood, that's cedar. So I said, I can't burn that thing. So I throwed it over against the woods over there by the wood pile and left it laying there. And must have been a year later or more, and it was in January, cold and rainy Sunday evening, and I was bored, nothing to do, walking around the house trying to find something to do. And I looked over and saw that piece of wood laying there, that old post. It was about 6 foot long, and I said, you know what, I think something just come to me. It said, that quick, said, I think I'm gonna make me a turkey call out of that. So I picked it up and I brought it out to my glass shop where I got saws, and I went to sawing it and cutting on it, and I made one that real quick that evening. It didn't look too good. It looked kind of like a fence post for sure. And I took it and went down later on about 4 o'clock down to this neighbor that stayed down on Bear Bluff Road at the end of the road at the river. He had some team turkeys in this barnyard out there, and I said, I'll test it with them. And I hit that little call, and I scraped it across there, friction against friction, 2 pieces of wood rubbing together. And he didn't pay me a bit of attention. He just went on about his business, walking around with the hens, you know. And I said, well, it must not sound right. So I come back, threw it aside, and about a week later, Sunday, and I got another piece of wood out off of that post, and I cut another one out. So I carried it down there, and I crawled upside the bushes, upside the fence row, and I was about probably 100 yards from the barnyard, and that old turkey walking around out there with the hen, and didn't see me, I was nowhere around. And when I hit that thing and rubbed it the first time, he said, wabba labba labba labba, just like that.
Bingo!
Yeah, I said, man, I got it made now. He knows what I sound like. So I creeped back out, not to disturb him, and come on back, and I made one like that one, and I made several of them, and my brother wanted one. He said, make me one of them things. He said, I'd like to go turkey hunting. So I made him one, and my other brother lived up in Charlotte. He said, I'd like to have one too.
You've sold these things in Canada, you've sold them in the United States, they're all over the place. But I was surprised when I got here that you don't blow on it. I figured it was going to be like a duck call. So when you took it and went, I was shocked.
You got to practice with it like a guitar. You got to learn to play it. You just don't do it now you can use it like that, like a beginner, like you, if you wanted to cluck. That's what that band is for. But that band is more just for keeping rattling in your pocket when you're walking through the woods.
Oh.
But if you make noise, the turkey's gonna run. He ain't gonna be around if it's just some noise. So, but you can hear it cluck. You just turn it loose.
Oh, this takes skill.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is that they're all different pitches.
Yeah, different colors and different pitches. Turkeys are different sound, just like me and you, women, different sound. You can go out there and listen to a flock of turkey, you hear different sounds of different turkeys making that. And all of them may be the same age, or some may be older, but they'll have different tones to their voice.
Now, you were telling me, Joe, that normally when it's not mating season, male turkeys congregate together and females congregate together, but now that it's March, the turkeys are starting to mate.
They're starting to mate, that's
Is
right.
this a good season to catch them?
Well, the season don't open until the last of March, so but they starting to mate. But the wildlife department lets them mate before the season opens. If it didn't, we wouldn't have no turkeys, because you'd be killed the gobblers before they ever mated. So the season opens in the early spring like that, and they already mated but most of them were still mating right on into April. But the sound that the gobbler likes mostly is a common yelp. Now, but I use it sometimes if I can't get one to come to me, I'll use it, but a normal common yelp is like early in the morning when the hen is on the roost up on the tree. She's the boss, and she'll be the first one to wake up, and she'll go real quiet. You can't hardly even hear her unless you're standing under the tree. Now she'll go, and that's bright break of day, and she'll get a little louder. She'll go a little louder, and one on another limb over there will answer her back. So and the record she'll do it like that, and it's about getting daylight good that she can see to fly down without anything catching her when she hits the ground. They call it a fly down cackle. She'll go.
She's excited.
That's the fly down cackle. When she's the boss hen, she flies down, and then when she hits the ground, she'll let them know that she's down there, and she'll come back with that little yelp. And then the rest of them will come flying down to her and meet her.
But now,
when they get down there, she'll cluck a time or two like that, listen where they'll hear her. They'll all gather up around her. She's the boss.
But you've been out hunting. I mean, obviously you have tons of deer here in Joe's place, his little hangout off Highway 90 here. But also, of course, you have killed a lot of turkeys. This one is a beauty. How big was she?
That turkey there weighed 22 pounds, and he's got 5 beards on him.
Oh, it's a he, excuse me.
It's a he, yes, a gobbler. The gobbler's the only turkey you can kill. You can't kill a hen.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can only kill the gobbler, and you can tell by the gobbler his head. See his red head? The hen is blue. So you got to know when you look for his beard too, but also hens have beards too. Once in a while, it's like a freak. That's a freak beard, but they won't have a big beard. It'll be a little one. I got one on my hunting place. Got one about this length right now, a hen, and she's a boss. They all follow her. I guess she must be old. And I also got another one, it's an albino.
Really?
Yeah. I got pictures on my telephone where I took her. She's real light, white, and brown looking. And she's not mixed with no team turkey, no white turkey, because there's no turkeys in miles around here.
We've got about a minute to go here with this segment, and I just wanted people to see how this all starts, because you actually start with blocks of wood that look like this.
Yeah.
And from that, you create turkey calls. So it's pretty amazing. And do you use, I know that you own Atlantic Glass Company. Do you use some of the glass tools to create this?
No, I got my own saws. I bought them years ago when I first made the first one. After I made the first one, I said, I got to have me a bandsaw, and I got to have me a sander to buff them down and everything.
If you would like to have one of these JNT turkey calls, we've got the phone number and the website for you. And I want you to stay with us, because once we came out here and learned about Joe and his turkey calls, we also found out that his home and farm is very historic. We are on Indian burial grounds, and that comes up next on Inside Out. Right, Joe?
That's right.
Coming up, Joe Thomas fills us in on his family farm built on an Indian burial ground.
No matter where the day takes me, HTC provides the high-speed internet services I need. HTC delivers faster speeds, 24/7 local tech support, and free in-home Wi-Fi right here to Horry and Georgetown counties. As trusted community members serving up world-class internet service, I know HTC will keep my family connected to what matters most. Because you are here, and so are we.
High-speed internet starting at 100 megabits per second. Call today.
HTC. This is life. Connect with it.
Well, we're still on Highway 90 in Conway with Joe Thomas, and we just got done talking about his turkey calls that he has certainly made and are beautiful, but I'm fascinated with the farm here. It's beautiful here, and you have quite a history. How far back does your family go out here on Highway 90?
Well, I'm gonna say it goes way back in the 18. My granddaddy was come here in about middle of 1800s, but now it goes back. My grandmama was a Parker, and it was all Parker land before Thomas. And the Wade Hampton Parker was granted this land from the King of England back in the 1700s. And then my grandmama's daddy had thousands of acres here, and when all their children, he gave every one of them 1,000 acres of land along here. And there was about 10 of them. So, and then grandmama, she had 1,000 acres here, the woods and a little bit of farming. Daddy used to tell me about how they'd farm the cotton and stuff around here. The tobacco wasn't much then, cotton was the big thing. There was 10 people, 10 boys and girls in my daddy's family, and granddaddy give them give them a 100-acre farm, granddaddy did, and lined up on Regis Ferry Road, all the boys, and give every one of them, and put the oldest one down at the further end, and then as they older, put them all the way back to where my daddy was the youngest one, just like I am the youngest of the Thomas family. So they was all lined up with the boys over there, and the girls, he'd give them farms over here off of old Highway 90, the dirt road back then. And so, but then when we died, my daddy died, he left a will with Mama a lifetime right to it, and Mama had a lifetime right. She could do anything she wanted to, but she couldn't sell the land. So that's what happened. When Mama passed away in 87, I believe it was, we took the farm and cut it up. Had a survey and made 9 equal parts and divided it up like that, and draw a number out of an ashtray, which farm we got, which piece of land we got. So that's where I got number 1 out here at the highway.
Right here with this beautiful corner.
Yeah.
Joe, tell me this. Your family back in 1800, they grew cotton, but what about your dad? And then how about you? Have you farmed the land?
Yeah, well, Daddy we grew tobacco. When I was a little boy, we used to had to set out tobacco with a hand setter. And my job was had a Louisiana coffee can with a little small, about a gallon size, but I was about 6 years old, and I would tote that water and pour it in that hand setter for my brother to set out tobacco. That was my job, to tote the water to the hand setter. And we grew tobacco and corn and peanuts, but we didn't gather the peanuts. The peanuts was planted to feed the hogs on, for livestock, and the corn was to feed the mules on. So, but we had a good life, and then after I got out of school, I decided I'd like to farm. I went out to Oklahoma, went out there and worked about 2 months, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the being out homesick, so I called Mama and told her I was coming home. And so I come back and I farmed. I started farming on the place here. And then in '63, I'd farmed tobacco that year and had good tobacco, but that's all we had was tobacco in. So after I sold my tobacco and paid off my debts, the people to help me, I had to borrow the money together, the tobacco, and pay off the fertilizer bills. And I got through it, I had $1,000 left.
Not
I'd
enough
worked the
money.
whole year for $1,000, you might say. And I said, this ain't no life for Joe. So I called up the employment office, and they got me a job working at a glass company there now. And I worked there until 1980 and decided I want to go on my own.
Atlantic Glass was born as a result of not making enough money in tobacco. Good for you.
Yeah.
Now tell me when you found out that your property here was former Indian burial ground.
Well, it goes way back. I'm gonna say back in the early '50s when my brother plowed up an Indian pot. But after that, we didn't put much attention to it. And I used to plow corn right here where this building is at. And when I'd be looking down to keep the tractor from covering up the corn, the plows, I'd see the arrowheads laying on top of the ground. I'd stop the tractor and pick them up and lay them in the thing. And I've collected a lot of them over the years like that. And then this lady at the college found out that about a hill out here where I'd found a lot of, my brother told her about a lot of arrowhead. So she came out with the college and the students, and they dug these trenches about, I'm gonna say at least more than waist deep. Some of them looked like they were shoulder deep, because I jumped down in them and look at them, and you could see trenches, I bet they were probably 20 feet long, and you could see the fossils laying in the ground where the Indians had been buried, bones and stuff. And they got some large bones, and they got a skull she carried off. The trenches stayed here a good many years, and then we cut the farm up, we covered them all up here. And I had built my house, but not on that hill. Now where we're sitting at now, we're sitting on the hill where the Indian burial ground was at.
You've traced your roots back to Native American history yourself.
Yeah.
I think you said your great-grandmother was Native American?
My daddy's grandmother, because she was named Mariah, and Daddy used to tell me she smoked a corncob pipe.
So when people drive down Highway 90, they see Joe's place outside. Just know that it's not just a farm, it's not just Atlantic Glass, they don't just have turkey calls here, but sometimes on Saturday night, the place is jiving. Tell us why, Joe.
Well, we have a lot of good time parties here with karaoke, and I got some friends that comes over and plays music, and I just love music, and I got a lot of friends of mine that plays it, and we just have a good time.
And I heard you were quite the comedian, too, that you could imitate Ray Stevens and some of his songs like nobody's business.
Well, I don't know. I've been accused of that. I don't know where I am or not.
I've had a great time with Joe Thomas. It was really happenstance that we ran into each other on New Year's Eve, but he's now my new friend. I want you to stop by and visit him sometime, especially if you're interested in a turkey call, the Boss Hen. Thank you so much, Joe.
You're quite welcome.
Invite me out one night when you're cooking some of that delicious turkey, okay?
I will.
You got it, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right after this, you'll meet a real live Lady Pirate from Murrells Inlet.
Hi, I'm Luke Rankin. Horry County is my home. I was born and raised here, and for nearly 31 years, I've been helping people. I'm an attorney. When folks need help after an accident, if they've been injured on the job or denied Social Security benefits, they call me. No screaming, no crashing cars here, just a serious offer to help. If you need legal advice or assistance, go with experience. Give me a call. Luke Rankin, Rankin & Rankin Law Firm. Experience you can trust.
This month's video features the Horry County Quilt Show, but all of the Blue Ribbon Award winners will be on display at the Horry County Museum on Main Street in Conway all this month. So be sure to check it out. Welcome to beautiful Murrells Inlet. No, we're not outside by the Marshwalk today, but we're inside a wonderful art studio, and you're getting ready to meet an incredible artist and storyteller. Meet Christine Vernon. And she's dressed as a pirate because she is the Pirate Lady of Murrells Inlet.
That is right. Exactly. That's my title.
How did all of this begin for you? You are from Pennsylvania. You moved to Murrells Inlet, fell in love. Tell me the story.
Well, I came down with a first husband and I ended up with a second husband, which happens occasionally. So my second husband and I, Paul Vernon.
Everyone in Murrells Inlet knows Paul.
Everyone knows Paul. And when we met, we just decided that we just loved the inlet. So, of course, Paul had always lived here, and I moved in here with him and found out a lot more about the legends and the history of the area through Paul and the previous storytellers that were here.
Well, I know if you come down here during the summer on the Marshwalk, you'll always see Christine giving lectures and tours, and she tells me that legend is her favorite part.
It is. I love the legends of this area. It's just so mysterious. And a lot of the legends go far, far back to the days of like the Walkamal or the Spanish, and it goes all the way up even to today's stories.
And you've gotten so good at this that Coastal Carolina has hired you for the OLLI program to teach classes.
Yes, they called me about a year and a half ago, just out of the blue, and asked me if I would teach a course on history and legends of Murrells Inlet. And I said, do you know who I am? Do you know I'm going to come dressed as Pirate Lady and teach? And they said, yes, please do. So I've been teaching, I think three series now, I think is what I've been doing, 3 lecture series now.
Before we talk about your art, I want you to fill me in on maybe the most unusual fact that you have learned since researching Murrells Inlet. What would we not know about Murrells Inlet that people are intrigued by?
Probably one of the wonderful stories that I found out was that this land here in Murrells Inlet was actually called Wachesaw, and that was by the Walkamal people, and they were the original inhabitants of Murrells Inlet, and that Wachesaw actually in their language means the place of great weeping. So this is where a lot of the Walkamal Indian burial grounds is here in Murrells Inlet.
Isn't that something? So the Wachesaw development, they must really find that intriguing. I bet a lot of people moved in there and didn't know it had anything to do with Indians or weeping.
Exactly. And the thing is, they did do digs way back in the day, around in the 1930s and 40s, and they did find the burial mounds there.
I love this little studio that we're in. It used to be Paul's workspace. He used to have tools in here, but when he married the pirate, out he went to the other side.
That's right. It turned into a she shed, I guess, instead of his tool shed.
And your artwork's great. You teach a lot of times here.
Yes, I do. Once we got everything cleaned up and established, I decided to do a little bit of teaching.
And the work is extraordinary because everything's different. You know, you've got fun and eclectic. Certainly we see the Marsh influences, no doubt about it.
Yes.
But what I love the most in your little studio is your new work on the slate.
I love working on the slate. That was such a find. A gentleman who just moved here to South Carolina had brought all this slate from Michigan. They had taken it off the Michigan College rooftop. So it's antique. And he was going to get rid of it. And so Paul and I decided to take it here to the studio and I started painting on it. And I just absolutely love it.
You do so many things from storytelling and lecturing and painting. What is there yet to do for Christine Vernon? What are some of the things you want to do down the road?
I'm thinking about maybe, of course, writing a book about the area as well. I'm constantly asked by people, are you going to write these stories down? Because our previous storytellers are no longer here. And there may be stories that I find out about through my research. And I'm thinking about actually putting everything down on print. So I'm hoping to get to that in the future.
But when we think of pirates, we think of all the male legends and the male pirates. But there's certainly some female interest in legends of days gone by.
Absolutely. Murrells Inlet has a few very important lady spirits as well. Of course, Alice Flagg. That's our most famous story here about poor Alice still searching for her ring out there in the marsh. And then we also have the legend and mystery of Theodosia Burr Alston. She was actually the first lady here in South Carolina around 1812, and she went missing. Unfortunately, her ship disappeared just off the coast of North Carolina. So those are a couple very important women here from Murrells Inlet.
You've got to write that book. So I heard too that you're thinking down the road of offering like a mobile tour, that the walking tour on the Marshwalk has been successful, but a lot of times you find people who aren't ambulatory.
Exactly. A lot of people, when they call and ask about my walking tour, ask me, do I have to walk on gravel because I have a walker or I have a cane, and how far is the walk? So my husband and I decided that maybe we'll just do a small mobile tour here in the area. We just purchased a limo, a golf cart limo. And
Cart limo, I love it.
So Murrells Inlet,
Yes,
right? That's
yes.
so Murrells Inlet. And it can fit 8 people.
Wow.
So we're hoping to fix it up, and hopefully I'll be out there on the streets, trying to help people that can't really do the walking tour.
So if it isn't enough of all the things she's doing, she's also a jewelry designer. Look at this necklace.
Yes, the necklace right here.
Beautiful.
This piece is actually made out of hand-blown glass. I just happened to have some glass here. It looked boring to me, so I just took some enamel paint and I just painted it to make it look like turquoise. So it really isn't turquoise, but I get the paint just right. And so I just decided to, do jewelry every once in a while when I get a little bored of doing maybe canvas or wood.
I see some pieces over there as well.
Yes, beautiful, yeah. I love doing jewelry.
So in wrapping it up, Christine, I know that you want people to come down and visit you. When do you give these tours?
I normally do tours from March through November. They're Wednesdays through Saturday nights, and they start at 7:30 p.m. Now, you do have to call me, though, and make a reservation for the tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're not going to hang out on the Marshwalk just waiting to see if somebody's coming.
Exactly.
And then if somebody has a family reunion or a wedding group or a bar mitzvah group, I know that you will even come on site and entertain them.
Absolutely. I would love to come by, even with children's parties as well. I love to come by and tell the stories and the legends of Murrells Inlet.
So there you have it. Storyteller, artist, jewelry designer, golf cart limo driver. I mean, she does it all. Christine Vernon of Murrells Inlet. Bravo, my friend.
Thank you.
Certainly one of the most beautiful pirates in our community, wouldn't you say? Thank you, Christine.
Would you like to learn how to make Irish soda bread? That comes up after this on Inside Out.
As fellow community members, HTC believes in helping friends and neighbors protect what matters most. With integrated home technology, I can control my home and security system from my smartphone. HTC Security makes my job easier and keeps my world running smoothly. No matter where the day takes me, HTC brings reliable, world-class security right here to Horry and Georgetown counties, because you are here, and so are we.
Secure what matters most with HTC Connected Home.
HTC. This is life. Connect with it.
This segment of Inside Out is brought to you by Clark Parker with Myrtle Beach CPAs, proudly serving the area for over 40 years.
Two little leprechauns here at the International Culinary Institute of Myrtle Beach, ready to make Irish soda bread for you, because this is the month of St. Paddy's Day, March 17th. Are you Irish?
I'm not Irish, but I love cooking Irish, and I like drinking Irish.
Oh, yes, I bet you do.
A little bit of Irish cream in some of my desserts here, and then every once in a while a nice cold beer. I think is a stout, an Irish stout, is good with chocolate. And you know me and chocolate, so.
Geoff, of course, is head of pastry cooking and chocolate and everything sweet at the International Culinary Institute, and he is going to make Irish soda bread, so get your pencils ready. But Geoff, I know that you're kind of winding down your very first class ever. They're going to be graduating.
It's our first group. They're going to be graduating here real soon. May, we will have South Carolina Technical College's first ever associate's degree in baking and pastry arts statewide will be graduating right here at HGTC.
I know
and we're
you're
extremely proud.
You
We are.
should
We are.
be. We'll talk about some of the upcoming classes and some of the camps for kids this summer, but let's get into the Irish soda bread. What makes it Irish? Is this truly something that started in Ireland?
It's actually one of the first leavened breads. So it's got a lot of steep history. One of the first things is the oats and the grains, and of course the dried fruits, in this case a dried currant.
So it's good for us.
It's good for us. It's got a lot of healthy things. Buttermilk was something that was very popular then. It had acid, so that buttermilk was actually it wasn't even considered buttermilk. It was their milk. So it was much thicker. It had a kind of a sour flavor. You have to think about refrigeration in those things back in those days. Potatoes and root cellars, and how did you keep things? Dried fruits. Breads were usually kind of firm. I think a lot of people recognize an Irish soda bread as something a little firm, like a scone. It was definitely part of the culture and the history at that time.
I'm feeling very Irish, even though I do have quite a bit of Irish heritage. Been to Ireland, as a matter of fact, and kissed the Blarney Stone, as you would imagine, yes. So let's get on with the recipe.
So we have some of our oats here. We're going to go ahead and take those oats, and we're going to, and this is very, very important, you want to actually take a portion of the buttermilk and put that over those oats, and you want them to soak, because here's the deal. These oats are dry, as they should be, but you want them to soak up some of the moisture and liquid and actually make this a little bit more of like a porridge style. So we actually have one that we've soaked here for about 10 minutes. If you want to set that to the side, and you can see it's kind of like a paste. And to me, this means that this grain has absorbed all the moisture that it's going to absorb. So now when you make the actual bread itself, the oats aren't going to absorb moisture and steal it away from actually hydrating the flour.
I see. Let me ask you a question about the oats. If you were making this at home, would you use quick oats or regular oats?
I use the quick oats.
Got it.
Yeah, the quick oats work just fine. Steel
They're
oats,
quicker.
they
They're
are quicker. Steel oats, you're going to have to soak a little bit longer, but you can use the steel oats as well. They're actually kind of hard to find, although I'm starting to find some of the natural food stores are starting to sell this. It just takes a lot longer to cook.
Okay.
So our next thing is we're going to take the other quarter cup of buttermilk and our 1 egg that we have here, and we're going to whisk that together and make kind of our liquid part. And after that's whisked together, that's going to be kind of our binding agent for the actual recipe itself. And then I have some dry ingredients over here. If you could, we've got 3 cups of just an all-purpose flour.
Already measured out?
Already measured out.
Here?
It's ready to go. Just pour that into the bowl. We then have some baking soda, and here's the deal with the baking soda. If you've got something with buttermilk in it and it's a quick bread, baking soda is probably going to be the one item that you're going to want. So we're going to put that in there. We've got some salt there. And then here's that option. You can use brown sugar or you can use white sugar. I like the brown sugar because it gives you a little bit of a smoky flavor that's typically not found. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is sugar back in that day was not white, granulated, clean sugar. It was probably sugar in the raw, what we know of. So, of course, some of that smokiness was probably naturally there. So we're going to take that and we're going to put that in there. And then we've got some wonderful Irish butter from the store here. And we're going to take this butter.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. And we've just kind of diced it up a little bit. We're going to put this into our dry ingredients. And with gloved hands for me, you can use one of those nice little biscuit cutters. But the phrase on the recipe that we've got for them online is the fact that you can actually cut it in. Now, my grandmother used to use 2 forks. My other grandmother said that I had 2 hands given by God, so I might as well use both. So you can actually just take those and cut that in, so you end up with some of that flake. Luckily, I had both grandmothers in my life growing up, and both of them loved to make biscuits and mac and cheese from scratch when I was a kid. So we spent a lot of time in the kitchens, and that was one of the things they always taught me was just use your hands, get in there, and then what you end up with is you end up with these little pieces. And those little pieces are really, really important to actually getting that the flakes of butter throughout that mixture.
And you can overdo this too.
You can. So you can keep mixing it, and eventually it becomes a paste. That's one of the reasons why I don't use a machine. I actually just use my hands. And if that butter and if you have warm hands, just chill the butter down for a little bit in the freezer.
In a warm heart.
In a warm heart, exactly, every time.
Now, Geoff, as you're mixing in the liquid, tell everyone too, because a lot of people don't have buttermilk at home, and there's a secret.
There is a secret.
If you don't have buttermilk,
you can put a splash of either vinegar or lemon juice into your milk. And that will make your buttermilk for
and
you.
that's a good piece of advice for people, because
Yes.
very few people keep buttermilk in the house, and if you buy a quart, you're probably never going to use the rest of it.
One of the things, I use the dry milk powder lately. There's a dry milk powder at the stores.
There's
and
a dry milk
powder.
Buttermilk?
Yeah, dry buttermilk powder.
Wow, I
It's
didn't know
really
that.
cool. It's very easy to work with. You just dump it right into the water, and then you're ready to go.
Yet this is more nutritious.
Oh, it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. So now we've got our paste, and you can see what I mean by that paste now. It literally, it makes such a wonderful feeling. So on the inside of the actual recipe itself, now when you go to bake it, there's these wonderful chunks of oatmeal that are in there that usually a lot of people don't end up with because they don't take the time to soak the oats. And then we have some currants. Now I got some big currants.
Are they like raisins?
Kind of.
More like blueberry.
Kind of like blueberries.
Oh,
It's like a blueberry kind of raisin.
delicious.
Really delicious. I love these. I like to dip them in, like toss them in white chocolate. Make little tiny, like dip white. Yeah, of
That's why
course.
I love
of
this
course.
man. He's a chocolatier.
So we're going to take all this together, and with gloved hands, because when we're all done, it makes a big mess. And you basically bring it together. And as you bring this together, you don't need to stir. You just kind of want to have a kneading action. And one recipe makes one 10-inch round. So it's really easy to mix up. You can do it right before dinner service. If you don't want the currants, you can do raisins, although the people will tell you raisins are not traditional, the currants are. But you can also venture out there and maybe put a zest of orange and put some craisins in. So now you have something, you don't just have to wait for Irish soda bread around March. You could do it during the holiday season and put cranberry and orange in there.
Oh, that's
and
a
make for a
great
really
idea.
nice, really nice recipe.
How long does this bake, Geoff?
So it bakes for about 30 minutes.
At 350?
At 350. So once we get this all mixed, we're going to bring this into a ball.
And as you're balling it, I know that there are tons of people lined up here every Thursday for bread, because the International Culinary Institute has their very own incredibly successful farmers market.
Yes, and the bread that we serve here is absolutely amazing weekly. Like, we go through a lot of bread, and it's amazing to see the amount of customers that come through the door for the bread that we sell out front. It truly is amazing to see all the response that
But
we
then
have
you
here.
also have the best of the best in the way of the farmers with
We do.
tomatoes and
We do.
lettuces and herbs and all
You
kinds
get
of things.
some wonderful beef. You get some wonderful pork. You get some wonderful cheese.
Butter.
which we'll be having here in just a moment.
I'm a butter freak.
You're going to take this knife. You're going to go about a half an inch deep through the middle. Half an inch through. That's quite a bit. And then I usually, in this case, I don't sprinkle it with sugar. I think it's sweet enough. Some people say sanding sugar works really, really well. But after we take this, we're going to put this in the oven for, like I said, about 20 minutes max. You want it to spring back to the touch. We've got one here.
20 to 30 minutes, right?
20 to 30. Some ovens go a little bit faster. If you have that convection setting at home, it goes a little bit faster.
Smells great.
Nice and hot. We'll get that onto the marble slab there. We'll put this back here because I have something wonderful that I know you love.
Oh, yes.
Some of our farm's butter from
Yes.
here at the farmer's market. And you'll notice that this can literally just,
Because you've cut it like that?
yeah, it's ready to go.
So does that mean like one chunk for you and one chunk for me, or one
I
fourth
want to
for
say
you?
it was 1/4 per dinner
Oh, I like that.
for the family. And so they would literally, because that's a pretty big piece. Now,
Oh, yeah.
you'll notice the color.
But you never see really skinny Irish people.
No, not at all.
With the potatoes and the bread. you know.
Exactly. But you can see it's got a nice crust on it. You can snap that apart.
Nice. Oh, that's nice. Well, while we're eating some bread,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us about some of the things coming up? I know last year you had a super summer camp for kids.
We did. We have a teen camp, so we have 2 weeks of baking. We have an intermediate and we have an advanced week. We also have 2 weeks of culinary this week. We have an intermediate and an advanced for the culinary camp as well. So you have savory and you have baking and pastry. You've also got some other kids classes on weekends, 2 and 3 hour classes. And then of course we have our ever popular boot camp for adults this summer as well. We've got some boot camps for Friday night so people can come in and learn a little bit about baking or cooking, either or.
What about people, and watch this, I've got to pile some butter on.
Yeah.
What about people who maybe want to take a whole new career course? Would that be starting in September?
So with our new fall start, usually late August, early September, they have a wonderful new program, baking and pastry arts and the culinary arts program. And of course, age doesn't matter. You just have to have the love and passion to come into the kitchen and actually work hard.
Jeff.
Is that good?
In wrapping up, what are you going to be making on your St. Patrick's Day table while I continue to eat?
I'm probably going to be doing a wonderful stout beer and milk chocolate bonbon.
Ooh!
And then, of course, we'll probably do your typical corned beef and cabbage. I like the corned beef and cabbage.
This bread is
But
great.
the bread goes nicely with it.
Absolutely wonderful. Please come on out here. It's hard to talk and eat at the same time. On Thursdays, International Culinary Institute and the Farmers Market's 1 to 6.
1 to 6. Barbecue as long as it lasts. Usually comes out around 2 o'clock. We've got barbecue as well.
Wow.
And then the bread. Kind of jockey for position for the bread about 1 o'clock. So.
I'm going to jockey you for position right here. Watch this. This is mine.
She's got it all done.
This is mine. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Erin
too.
Bobra, everyone. March 17th, St. Patty's Day. Celebrate.
Coming up, learn all about Compassionate Friends, helping parents who have lost children.
Hi, I'm Wanda Howard, and I've known Clark Parker for a long time. Clark has been my CPA for the original Benjamin since 2006. He has proven himself to be knowledgeable, dependable, and available. I consider him to be an integral part of my business success. I even trust Clark for my personal estate planning. Small problems or large, Clark can help you navigate through them successfully.
Clark Parker and Myrtle Beach CPAs, proudly serving the area for over 40 years. This segment of Inside Out is brought to you by Luke Rankin, Rankin & Rankin Law Firm. Experience you can trust.
Today, we're talking with Marie Peeling. She's the chapter leader for Compassionate Friends. It's an organization that helps parents deal with the loss of a child. It's been around our community for a number of years, but Marie wants you to know they're out there and they're waiting for you if you need it. And Marie, first let's talk a little bit about your personal situation and how you unfortunately became a member of this group.
22 years ago, my son Keith, who was 22 years old, was killed in a car accident. He just got out of the Marine Corps, and unfortunately he was killed on his way home, coming home for dinner. I needed something, because when you first lose a child, unless somebody else has lost a child, they truly do not understand what you're going through. So I searched out organizations and I came across Compassionate Friends. At the time I moved down here, they were looking for a new leader, and I took over the leadership. Compassionate Friends is a place where you can go and feel completely safe. No matter what you say, no matter how you feel, we all understand. We've all been there. I know friends and relatives have said that they know how you feel. Honestly, nobody knows how you feel unless you've lost a child. So we're here. There's no judgment. We've all been there, and we show that you do learn how to live again. You do learn how to breathe again. I will tell everybody who's ever lost a child, you're never going to be the person you were before that. You change. Your whole entire life changes. Your priorities in life change. Whatever you thought was so important is so trivial now. We meet once a month at the Grand Strand Senior Center on 21st Avenue North at 7 o'clock. But I am always available, because sometimes once a month is not enough. Sometimes you just have a bad day and you need to talk to somebody. So I'm always available for a phone call. Any little thing, I'm a seasoned bereaver. Yes, it's been 22 years, but as I try to tell new people, it doesn't really matter. how many years it's been since you've lost a child, because you'll have days where you're wonderful, and then there's days you'll go right back to the first day it happened. It's really a great place for people to come and just be able to express themselves, that they're not crazy, because you actually think you're crazy. And people kind of think that you should just get over it. That, okay, you know, you lost your child, okay, it's been 2 years. You shouldn't be acting like this. We at Compassionate Friends know, no, there's no time limit on your grief. And everybody grieves differently. There cannot be any judgment. As an example, at my son's funeral, I had people tell me, oh, you're holding up so well, but look at your husband. I was like so taken back. I mean, people, I don't know, I guess people expect you to do what they think you should do. I had sympathy cards from people saying, I know how you feel. I lost my dog. I mean, and I realize I'm not criticizing people.
They never know what to say.
They don't know what to say. And people, you know, but sometimes you're better off not saying anything and just giving us a hug instead of coming up with, oh, they're in a better place. This is God's will. Oh, you know, this is better for them, especially if your child was sick or whatever. I know you mean well, but just give us a hug. That's all we want is a hug. And and like I said, at Compassionate Friends meeting, we can express that and not feel like we're going to hurt anybody's feelings, because you don't want to hurt people's feelings and just say, you know, why would you say something like that to me? So you kind of just grin and you smile and then you walk away and you're just like, why would they say something like that to me?
Marie, you mentioned that everyone grieves differently, and you have a beautiful shrine to Keith here in your house. And for you, that's comfort. And I guess for others it could be, but there may be other ways for people to handle that grief.
Oh, there definitely is. Whatever makes life easier for you, whatever you need to do. We also, we have a memorial out in Hillcrest Cemetery, which Hillcrest, they donated the land for us, which was just unbelievable that they would do such a thing.
They're all good people out
Very
there.
good people. And we have a beautiful monument for our children where a lot of our members are from the north, and a lot of their children are not buried down in South Carolina. So this is where you can go. You can purchase a paver to put your child's name or whatever you would like on the paver. And you can go out to the Hillcrest and sit and spend time. Even though your child's physical body may not be there, you can still hit their spirits. Their spirits are always with us. But it helps where you can feel you can sit and, you know, because we all know how it is to go to the cemetery to visit our child. But at least we have someplace, you know, local where we cannot always get up north. And that's open to anybody, as the meetings are. The meetings are open to any parent who has lost a child, a grandparent, or a sibling. They are welcome to attend the meeting. There's no membership fees. There's no obligation to come every month. If you just come and come as you feel you need.
So Marie, you told me that sometimes no one shows up, but you're glad to still be there. And you said sometimes when someone shows up, you laugh with them, you cry with them, you hold their hand, whatever it is they need, that's why you're there.
Exactly. Perfect example was last night. We had a new member, and she came in where she could barely breathe, but she did have a smile on her face throughout the meeting, because it's not always just crying. You can talk about your child and you can laugh and bring back memories of years ago and things that you can talk about. Because sometimes when you talk to other people about your child, you make them feel uncomfortable. So you kind of hold in all that joy that you used to have with your child. So it's not all sad and gloomy. It's just a great place. But if you need that hug, or if you need somebody to hold your hand, we're there. If you feel you don't need to talk, you don't want to talk, you don't have to talk either. You can just sit and listen. There's no pressure on you whatsoever. You just do as you feel you're capable of doing.
It's the first Tuesday of every month, and they're there whether you come or not. And it's the Grand Strand Senior Center, 21st Avenue North in Myrtle Beach. And in case my friend Marie looks familiar, it's because she works at the Carolina Forest Post Office. When you see her, give her a hug and thank her for heading up Compassionate Friends. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.
Next on Inside Out, meet one of our new co-sponsors, Clark Parker.
As fellow community members, HTC knows the precious value of family time spent together. That's why HTC delivers faster speeds, 24/7 local tech support, and free Wi-Fi. No matter where the day takes me, HTC serves up the world-class high-speed internet you need to stay connected to your world. Because you are here, and so are we.
High-speed internet starting at 100 megabits per second. Call today.
HTC. This is life. Connect with it.
In this segment, we're going to get some free tax advice, but first, you're going to get to know one of our new co-sponsors. His name is Clark Parker, and he probably doesn't need any introduction because he was born and raised in these parts, as we say, and Aner specifically. And Clark, welcome to the show. So glad that you're here, and we're grateful for your sponsorship of our food segment.
Glad to be with you.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Growing up in Aner, boy, has Aner changed.
It has changed a lot. It's a good little community to grow up in. We were blessed. Everybody knows everybody, and a lot of people can't stay there because there's not a lot of jobs. So we migrated back toward the ocean, and we've stayed here in the community, and it's been a blessing for me and my family.
Then, of course, you went to Coastal. This has been home since day one. When so many people went to college and moved away, you just decided to stay.
Well, a lot of reasons for that. My family needed me to be home for a lot of reasons, and so that worked out. Coastal was a good opportunity for me to get there, provided me with an education opportunity, and it grew with me from a 2-year school to a 3-year school to allow me to be able to graduate in 1977. And my wife also graduated in 78.
And y'all are still incredibly involved and have been incredibly benevolent, not just to the college, but to the whole community.
Well, we've been blessed, and the community's blessed us with our business and our opportunities to raise our children here. And we got we used to call them 3 boys, now they're 3 men. Bradley, the oldest, at 35, and Curtis is about 31, and Stephen's 29.
And did they stay here?
2 out of 3 did. Stephen is the youngest one. He's actually in Washington, D.C. He's married. He's an architect, and he does something similar to what I do. I couldn't get any of them excited about going behind me because they said I'd had me too many hours behind a desk. But he's behind a desk in an architectural firm and doing well.
I'm glad I got this interview with you. I know this is your busiest time of year as a CPA. First, tell me a little bit about your firm so people know when they see your name on the screen, they're better familiar.
Well, Parker Hunter Skipper, we've been in existence as a partnership since 2009. My partner is a senior partner, Hunter. He's been in business a little bit longer than I have, about 10 years longer. And we got a junior partner who's Samantha Skipper. Samantha, we do everything through the cloud. So she's in St. Augustine.
Wow.
She's a full-time CPA, and we got a full-time CPA in Greenville, South Carolina. And we got an accountant that does a lot of tax work in North Myrtle Beach. So we're basically, the cloud and the internet has helped us a lot.
It's so beneficial for people to have a CPA. Let's face it, there's no way that an individual can keep up with the constant tax changes. And so I'm wondering, what have been some of the big tax changes in the past year?
Well, of course, the Trump Tax Act has affected a lot of people in a lot of ways. Primarily, that standard deduction has been raised from $12,000 for an individual to $24,000 for a couple. And what we're seeing in that is that probably 1 out of 4 people can now possibly itemize, where 3 out of 4 are taking advantage of that new standard deduction, which has helped a lot. And we saw a little bit more refunds in those particular cases. Now, if you get, the bigger your family is, it gets eroded. If you got a family of 4 or more, the exemptions are going away. So you might see a little bit reduction in your tax refunds because of the larger family.
What do you think is the biggest problem when you see people come in with their taxes? Is it that they haven't stayed organized during the year, or they misrepresent something? What do you see as some of the biggest problems that we taxpayers mess up when we're doing our taxes?
Well, ironically, the biggest problem typically we see is when there's a divorce. Because typically in a marriage, one person is in charge of all the tax matters and whatever. So when that breakup occurs, the other one doesn't know a lot what to do. And so we encourage people to do it together. If they can come in and do the tax interviews together or prepare those tax returns in a joint effort, it's a lot better for everybody, because everybody can add information that the other spouse might not totally know. So when we do interviews, we like to interview both the taxpayer and the spouse, or both both individuals.
What are some of the things we should save during the year that you find people forget to save? I mean, like donations to charities?
Well, I think a lot of times that people do a lot more than what they give themselves credit for. Contributions, you're talking about mileage. A lot of times people donate a lot of time and effort. Of course, their time and effort can't be deducted, but anything they spend out of pocket. A lot of times we see people who travel to take people to the hospital in Charleston or take them to other activities where they're required to go. That mileage can be deducted, and then of course any business-related expenses, we encourage you to keep up with those, because a lot of people are too busy sometimes to maintain those receipts or keep up with those miles, but they do add up.
Clark, tell me about some of the things maybe we used to take advantage of that we can't take advantage of anymore.
The biggest changes are going to be the employee business-related expenses, that teachers, coaches, a lot of folks that have done things out of their pocket in reference to their employment are no longer deductible. So we encourage those people to look at, if they're doing those things consistently and significantly, is they may want to form their own little LLC, form their own little business, and use that as an avenue to take those deductions, where they're not allowed now in the personal exemption, personal itemized deductions. So we're seeing a lot of those being eroded. Moving expenses, which was a standard deduction, and now is only allowed to those in the military.
Oh.
So we just had one today. A family had moved to Raleigh and spent quite a bit of money, but when I told them they couldn't deduct those items, that was a pretty good deduction, about $6,000. So be cognizant of those things you can or cannot do. Also want to make sure that people protect their information, their Social Security numbers, their date of birth, those kind of things. There's been a lot of identity theft issues, and that's a terrible thing to get when we try to electronically file a return and we find out that return has already been filed by someone else illegally. And that creates a whole gamut of problems for that taxpayer to deal with. So protect that information as best you can, because the date of birth and Social Security number are very critical information that they can use to create a tax return.
And finally, a lot of times people think of an accountant like a travel agent. Oh, I'm going to pay more and maybe I can just handle this myself. But I have found, and I know most people say this, that a CPA can save you money because you know the deductions, you know how to do it right. You may keep them from going to court or facing the IRS. There's no doubt it's money worth spent.
We believe that. I mean, we have continuing education all the time to make sure we maintain the rules and regulations and keep up with it, because it is a constantly moving target up there in Washington. They're constantly tweaking something. And so we feel like that we're worth the money that you invest. And we've had a lot of times where people have left us and come back a couple of years later because they got a little lost in the maze.
Clark, we're just so grateful to have you as part of our family here at HTC and as part of our show. And anytime you want to come back, you just let us know. We're grateful to have you as a partner and friend.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Clark Parker and friends, we'll be right back. Well, that's it for another edition of Inside Out. But when you're out doing your spring shopping, don't forget to visit some of the great small town shops like I'm doing today in downtown Loris. Happy March.
Inside Out is presented by HTC. This is Life. Connect with it. And sponsored in part by Luke Rankin, Rankin & Rankin Law Firm. Experience you can trust. And by Clark Parker with Myrtle Beach CPAs, proudly serving the area for over 40 years.